Golden State Warriors fans, this was one of those nights that really forces you to sit back and process what you just watched. From the opening minutes, it felt like the game was slipping away before the Warriors could truly settle into any kind of rhythm. Playing shorthanded always exposes weaknesses, and against a team that came out aggressive, confident, and incredibly efficient, those weaknesses became impossible to hide. Even though the final score might suggest a competitive effort at times, the reality is that the flow of the game never fully tilted back toward Golden State. The opponent set the tone early by catching fire from beyond the arc, and once a team starts hitting over 60% of its three-point attempts, the margin for error becomes almost non-existent. Every defensive breakdown was punished. Every late closeout seemed to result in another shot falling through the net. That kind of shooting does more than just add points to the scoreboard. It drains energy and confidence, forcing the Warriors to chase the game rather than dictate it. As the night went on, Golden State found itself leaning heavily on individual shot making instead of its usual ball movement and off-ball action. That is rarely a recipe for success, especially when the other team is moving the ball freely and playing with visible momentum. Still, when you look past the frustration, there were moments and performances that deserve attention, even in a loss that felt lopsided for long stretches. One of the more encouraging signs was the overall distribution of scoring. Rather than relying on a single player to carry the offense, 6 different Warriors finished the game in double figures. That kind of balance shows that the ball was moving at times and that multiple players were willing to step up and take responsibility. Interestingly, the 2 players who crossed the 20-point mark both came off the bench, which speaks volumes about the impact and energy provided by the second unit. Jonathan Kuminga, in particular, stood out in a major way. After spending a significant stretch out of the rotation, he returned with something to prove and played like it. Scoring 20 points in just 21 minutes, he was efficient, aggressive, and decisive. He attacked the basket, finished through contact, and took advantage of every mismatch presented to him. For a player who has struggled to find consistent minutes, that kind of response says a lot about his readiness and mindset. What makes Kuminga's performance so important is not just the raw numbers, but how he influenced the game when he was on the floor. He brought a physical presence that the Warriors often lack, especially when the perimeter shots are not falling. Instead of settling, he drove with purpose, forced the defense to collapse, and created opportunities simply by being assertive. In an offense that can sometimes become overly reliant on jump shots, that change of pace is invaluable. Another issue that became impossible to ignore during this game was the absence of a true interior presence. Too often, the Warriors' offense devolved into 5 players spaced around the perimeter, swinging the ball without anyone occupying the low post or threatening the rim consistently. That makes life much easier for opposing defenses, allowing them to stay home on shooters and limit driving lanes without fear of giving up easy points inside. This lack of presence near the basket also hurt Golden State on the offensive glass. Relying on guards and wings to chase long rebounds is not a sustainable strategy, especially against bigger and more physical teams. There were multiple possessions where a second-chance opportunity could have shifted momentum, but instead the ball went the other way, leading to fast breaks or open shots for the opponent. Despite all of that, there was a brief stretch where the Warriors managed to cut the deficit to 14 points, offering a glimpse of hope. For a moment, it felt like a run could be coming, but that hope never fully materialized. Every small push was met with an immediate response, whether through a defensive lapse or another timely basket by the opposing team. The loss by 18 points ultimately reflected the reality of how the game unfolded. Veteran players also had an uneven night, struggling to consistently impact the game on both ends of the floor. Missed shots, turnovers, and defensive miscues added up, and in a matchup like this, there was little room to recover from those mistakes. At the same time, younger players showed flashes of energy and hunger, highlighting an ongoing tension within the roster about roles, rotations, and long-term direction. Quinton Post provided solid minutes and reached double figures in scoring, yet his time on the floor remained limited. Given the team's clear need for size and rebounding, it is understandable why there's frustration surrounding his usage. His ability to occupy space and provide a target inside could address some of the issues that were so evident throughout the game, especially when the offense stalled on the perimeter. In the bigger picture, this game felt like a snapshot of where the Warriors currently stand. There is talent on the roster and depth in certain areas, but there are also glaring holes that become more pronounced against strong, confident opponents. The reliance on perimeter shooting, the lack of interior toughness, and the inconsistency on defense are challenges that cannot be overlooked if this team hopes to remain competitive. At the same time, performances like Jonathan Kuminga's remind everyone that there is still upside and potential within this group. Even in a tough loss, moments like that stand out and raise important questions about the future, the rotation, and the decisions that may need to be made sooner rather than later. This game did not provide easy answers, but it certainly highlighted the paths the Warriors might need to explore moving forward. As the focus shifts beyond that loss, the conversation naturally turns to what comes next and how the Warriors respond in the immediate future. The upcoming stretch of games feels like a crossroads moment, not just in terms of wins and losses, but in defining identity. Without a fully healthy roster, the margin for error shrinks even further, and every decision, from rotations to in-game adjustments, carries extra weight. This is where resilience becomes more than just a buzzword. It becomes a necessity. One of the biggest challenges moving forward is the simple reality that one superstar cannot shoulder everything on his own. There were moments in the previous game where it felt like the offense stalled unless a miracle shot went in. That is not sustainable over the course of a long season, especially when defenses are comfortable loading up and daring other players to beat them. For Golden State, the answer has to come through collective responsibility, with multiple players embracing larger roles instead of deferring. This is where the importance of internal development becomes impossible to ignore. Jonathan Kuminga's performance was not just a one-game spark. It was a reminder of what athleticism and aggression can bring to this team. When he attacks downhill, it forces rotations, opens up space, and gives the offense a different look. The key question now is whether that performance leads to consistent opportunities or if it becomes another isolated highlight in an otherwise uncertain role. Consistency has been the missing ingredient for several players on this roster. There are flashes, there are moments, but rarely does it all come together for extended stretches. That inconsistency puts extra pressure on veterans to stabilize the game, and when they struggle, the cracks become obvious. Finding a balance between trusting experience and empowering younger contributors is one of the toughest challenges facing the coaching staff right now. Defensively, the Warriors also have serious questions to answer. Perimeter breakdowns, late rotations, and a lack of rim protection have all shown up repeatedly. When opponents sense that they can get clean looks early, confidence builds quickly, and games can spiral out of control. Tightening up on that end of the floor does not always require major roster changes. Sometimes it comes down to communication, effort, and commitment to the scheme. However, effort alone cannot fully compensate for structural issues. The lack of size and physicality inside continues to haunt this team, particularly against opponents who are comfortable attacking the paint or crashing the glass. Too often, Golden State finds itself giving up second-chance points or being forced into small lineups that struggle to hold their ground. Over time, that wears a team down both physically and mentally. As the road trip continues, the next matchup looms as a significant test. Facing a team with young talent and something to prove brings its own set of challenges. Road games always amplify weaknesses, and without the energy of the home crowd, execution becomes even more critical. How the Warriors start that game, how they respond to early adversity, and how they manage rotations will say a lot about their current mindset. There's also an undeniable sense that the front office is closely evaluating everything. Performances like Kuminga's do not exist in a vacuum. Around the league, teams notice when a young player flashes potential, especially one with physical tools and upside. Whether that leads to a larger role in Golden State or increases his value in potential discussions is part of the larger uncertainty hanging over the roster. Speculation will always surround teams in this position, especially those with championship expectations and aging stars. The Warriors are no exception. Every strong game by a young player fuels debates about the future, while every loss intensifies calls for change. Navigating that noise while staying focused on daily improvement is not easy, but it is part of the reality of competing at this level. What cannot be lost in all of this is the urgency of the present. The standings do not wait, and stretches like this can define an entire season. A few wins can stabilize confidence and buy time, while a prolonged slide can force decisions sooner than anticipated. That is why these next games feel heavier than usual, not just for fans, but for everyone inside the organization. Leadership also becomes critical during moments like this. Vocal presence on the court, accountability in the locker room, and a clear sense of direction can help steady the ship. Younger players look to veterans not just for production, but for guidance on how to respond when things are not going well. That dynamic can either strengthen a team or expose fractures, depending on how it is handled. At the same time, there is an opportunity hidden within the adversity. Reduced depth and unexpected absences often force players into uncomfortable situations, and sometimes that is where growth happens. Players discover new aspects of their game, build confidence, and earn trust through necessity. The challenge is ensuring that those lessons stick beyond a single game or a short stretch. The Warriors have been through moments like this before, though each iteration of the team brings its own unique circumstances. The experience of navigating highs and lows can be an advantage, but only if the lessons are applied. Relying on past success alone is not enough, especially in a league that evolves every season and punishes complacency. As the schedule moves forward, the pressure will continue to build. Every performance will be dissected, every rotation choice questioned, and every rumor amplified. In that environment, clarity of purpose matters more than ever. The Warriors need to define who they are right now, not who they were years ago or who they hope to be in a perfect scenario. Ultimately, the story of this team is still being written, and games like the last one, frustrating as they are, play a role in shaping that narrative. They expose flaws, highlight potential, and force uncomfortable conversations. How Golden State responds, adjusts, and evolves from here will determine whether this season becomes a struggle to endure or an opportunity to redefine itself in the face of adversity. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. Shockwaves are rippling through the Bay as whispers grow louder around the future of the Golden State Warriors bench. Inside the organization, the mood is described as tense, uncertain, and unusually quiet for a franchise accustomed to confidence and continuity. The name at the center of the storm is Stephen Douglas Kerr, former sharpshooter turned championship coach, a figure who has come to symbolize the modern Warriors era. Now, that symbol may be on the verge of being abruptly removed. Sources close to the locker room suggest that patience at the top has thinned. The narrative circulating is not about a single loss or a specific night, but about an accumulation of doubts regarding direction, voice, and timing. Kerr, once praised for innovation and calm authority, is rumored to have lost part of the room. Executives are said to be debating whether a new message is required to reset the franchise's competitive edge and cultural identity. What has truly fueled the rumor mill is the belief that a successor is already being quietly discussed among players and staff. The potential replacement, according to chatter, is not a familiar household name. In fact, his name is reportedly joked about as being impronounceable in the locker room, a detail that only deepens the mystery. The profile fits that of an assistant with an unconventional background, someone viewed as obsessive, detail-driven, and unafraid to challenge established stars. The idea of such a figure stepping into the spotlight has divided opinions internally, exciting some while alarming others. Officially, everything remains business as usual. Publicly, there are no cracks. But privately, The sense is that a major decision is approaching fast. If the speculation proves true, the Warriors would be signaling a dramatic shift, closing a chapter defined by stability and opening another filled with risk. In the NBA, change often arrives without warning, and in Golden State, the next voice on the sideline may already be closer than anyone expected. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.